The Galactic Confederacy vessels appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Massive and dark, their hulls blocked the sunlight over major cities around the world. The ships hovered silently for exactly 17 minutes, just long enough for humans to notice them, to point and stare upward, to begin recording with their phones. No messages came, no diplomatic channels opened, no attempts at peaceful contact. Then the sky burned. Energy weapons rained down on Earth's most populated cities. Tokyo disappeared in a flash of light so bright it was visible from space. New York's skyline crumbled in seconds. London's ancient streets melted beneath weapons designed to erase civilizations. In Seoul's underground command center, built decades ago to withstand North Korean attacks, but never intended for extraterrestrial warfare, Dr. Hannah Park watched the satellite feeds with trembling hands. The screens showed death on a scale humanity had never witnessed. "They didn't even try to talk to us," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the emergency alarms. General Ta Kim stood beside her, his weathered face hard in the red emergency lighting. "They thought we'd surrender immediately," the general replied, studying the casualty estimates scrolling across a nearby screen. "Their mistake." The command center buzzed with frantic activity. Military officers shouted into phones and radios. Technicians worked desperately to maintain communications with whatever government officials had survived the initial attack. Someone was crying quietly in a corner. Above them, the alien ships, which would later be identified as belonging to a species called the Dorn, moved into position for a second wave of attacks. Their formation was perfect, almost mathematical in its precision. They targeted power plants, military bases, and transportation hubs with clinical efficiency. What they didn't expect was resistance. General Kim received the call from what remained of the Japanese self-defense forces. "We're launching everything we have." The voice crackled through static. Similar messages came from American submarine commanders, Russian missile bases, and Chinese defense installations. Dr. Park watched the radar screens as humanity's nuclear arsenal, weapons built to destroy each other, rose to meet a common enemy. The Dorn ships didn't even attempt to evade. Why would they? Their scans had shown primitive propulsion technology, nothing that could touch their advanced shields. But human scientists had spent decades refining their weapons of mass destruction. When the modified nuclear warheads detonated near 3 Dorn cruisers, the electromagnetic pulses disrupted something critical in the alien shields. The massive ships lost power and control, spiraling downward through the atmosphere, trailing fire across the sky before crashing into the Pacific Ocean, with impacts that triggered tsunamis across coastal Asia. The command center erupted in cheers, the first hopeful sound since the attack began. On the main screen, the remaining Dorn vessels halted their attack patterns. They seemed to hesitate, then broke formation. One by one, they retreated to the dark side of the moon. "They're regrouping," General Kim said. "No." Dr. Park's eyes narrowed as she studied the intercepted transmissions her computers were trying to decode. "They're confused. Look at these signal patterns. There's disorganization in their communications." She turned to the general, a spark of understanding in her eyes. "They underestimated us. Their attack pattern assumed we would be paralyzed by fear, that we wouldn't have weapons capable of hurting them." She pointed to a repeating sequence in the alien transmissions. "These frequencies, they are speaking about us. They think we're nothing but animals." The hours after the retreat brought images of devastation from around the world. Cities reduced to ash. Millions dead in the initial attack. Infrastructure crippled. Yet alongside the horror came something else: unity. Former enemies shared resources and information. Political differences vanished in the face of extinction. 3 days after the attack, representatives from every surviving government met in the bunkers beneath the Swiss Alps. They formed the United Earth Defense Coalition, the first truly global human government. Dr. Park was appointed head of alien intelligence, tasked with understanding the enemy that had so nearly destroyed them. Working with a team of linguists and cryptographers, She began piecing together the Dorn language from intercepted communications. They refer to Earth as Harvest World 7. She reported to the Coalition Council a week later. "We're not the first planet they've attacked this way." "Will they come back?" asked the representative from Brazil. "Yes," Dr. Park answered without hesitation. "They consider us vermin to be exterminated, but they'll return with more ships. They don't understand what happened to the vessels we destroyed." General Kim, now commanding what remained of Earth's military forces, stood up. "Then we need to be ready. We need to study the wreckage in the Pacific. We need weapons that can hurt them." Teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock to reach the sunken alien ships. Submarine crews battled radiation and strange alien materials to retrieve technology centuries beyond human understanding. Each recovered piece was analyzed, reverse-engineered, and incorporated into Earth's defenses. 1 month after the attack, Dr. Park made her most important discovery. While studying the remains of a Dorn navigator recovered from the ocean, she found unusual neural structures. "They're telepathic," she announced to the Coalition Council. "Not individually, but through technology. These implants connect their minds during battle. It's why their formations were so perfect. They think and act as one." "And why they broke formation when we destroyed some of their ships," General Kim added. "We disrupted their network." "Exactly," Dr. Park nodded. "And it gives us an advantage. They coordinate perfectly, but they don't adapt well to chaos. Human warfare has always been unpredictable, improvised. They don't understand how we think because we don't fight like them." The Coalition poured resources into developing countermeasures based on Dr. Park's discoveries. New weapons were designed specifically to disrupt Dorn communications. Military tactics emphasized unpredictability and asymmetric warfare. In bunkers around the world, survivors prepared. In hidden facilities, engineers built defense systems using stolen alien technology. In orbit, early warning satellites watched for the enemy's return. 2 months after the initial attack, humanity had transformed. Cities lay in ruins, but purpose had replaced shock. Grief had hardened into resolve. Former nations now worked as one. People who had lost everything found meaning in building something new. A civilization designed not just to survive the next attack, but to fight back. Dr. Park stood at the window of the new Coalition headquarters, looking up at the night sky, where stars still shone despite everything. "They bombed Earth," she said softly to herself, thinking of all that had been lost. How cute! Her lips curled into a determined smile as she turned back to her work. "Now let's show them how humans strike back." Major Jun Lee's boots left perfect prints in the lunar dust as he led his team across the gray landscape. Earth hung in the black sky above them, partly covered in swirling storm clouds. The blue planet looked peaceful from here. No one could see the ruined cities or the billions of graves from this distance. "Keep low," Joan instructed through his helmet comm. The 5 soldiers moved in formation, their bulky white suits making them look like slow-moving ghosts against the lunar surface. 2 kilometers ahead lay their target, a crashed Dorn scout ship. The alien vessel had been damaged during the retreat 3 months ago and had made an emergency landing on the moon's far side. Coalition satellites had only spotted it last week. "Command, we're approaching the wreckage," Jun whispered, though there was no need to lower his voice in the vacuum of space. Old habits died hard. No signs of survivors. In the underground command center on Earth, Dr. Hannah Park sat forward in her chair. Dark circles under her eyes revealed months of minimal sleep. She adjusted her headset and checked the vital signs of Jun's team on her monitor. "Remember, Major, we need their navigation systems intact," she said. "The central processing unit should be located in what looks like a spherical chamber near the front of the vessel." "Understood," Jun replied. He signaled to his team to spread out as they approached the crashed ship. The Dorn vessel was unlike anything humans had built. No straight lines or sharp angles marked its silver-blue surface. Instead, it looked almost grown rather than manufactured, with sweeping curves and organic shapes. A deep gash ran along one side where something had torn through the hull. Entry point located, Sergeant Min reported, pointing to an opening near the ship's rear. Appears to be an emergency hatch. June nodded. Team 1 with me. Team 2, secure the perimeter. Inside, the alien ship was dimly lit by emergency systems. The air remained breathable within the vessel, another sign of advanced technology. June kept his helmet sealed anyway. Who knew what alien microbes might be present? The interior corridors curved and branched like blood vessels. No labels or signs marked the passages, at least none humans could recognize. June followed the schematics developed from satellite imagery, moving toward the ship's command center. This technology is, Sergeant Min whispered as they passed what appeared to be a living wall of shifting metal. It's beyond anything we've seen from the recovered wreckage. That's why we're here, Jun reminded him. We need better tech if we're going to survive. They reached the central chamber without incident. No Dorn bodies were visible, which was strange for a crashed ship. The controls pulsed with soft blue light. Organic-looking interfaces covered surfaces that seemed designed for beings with more fingers than humans possessed. We've reached the command center, Jun reported, beginning extraction of target systems. Dr. Park's voice came through clearly. Look for anything that resembles a neural interface. Our analysts believe their navigation systems connect directly to their minds. Following her instructions, June located a cluster of crystal-like structures embedded in what seemed to be the captain's station. As he carefully removed them using tools designed specifically for this mission, he noticed something unusual. Dr. Park, I'm seeing what looks like brain tissue integrated with the technology. Is that possible? There was a pause before her reply. Yes. Our studies suggest their technology is partly biological. Extract it all. The team worked methodically, removing everything Dr. Park had identified as potentially useful. As Sergeant Min was packing the last components, a sound echoed through the ship, a low hum that gradually increased in pitch. Something's activating, Jun warned, drawing his weapon. Possible automated system or survivor. The hum grew louder. Panels in the walls began to glow. Withdraw immediately, Dr. Park ordered. The ship may have a self-destruct mechanism. Jun didn't need to be told twice. Everyone out. Move. The team sprinted through the curved corridors, carrying their precious cargo of alien technology. They had just cleared the emergency hatch when the humming stopped abruptly. Instead of an explosion, a signal burst from the ship, a transmission directed toward deep space. They called for help. Dr. Park realized, studying the data. We need to move faster. Back on Earth, the recovered technology proved even more valuable than hoped. Dr. Park worked with Dr. Su Kang, a brilliant engineer who had lost his family in the destruction of Seoul, to unlock the secrets of the Dorn systems. In an underground laboratory built beneath the ruins of Chicago, Dr. Kang held up a small device that pulsed with blue light. Around him, a team of scientists watched intently. This is their neural network node, he explained. It doesn't just connect their ships, it connects their minds during battle. Dr. Park nodded. That explains their perfect coordination during the initial attack. And why they fell apart when we destroyed some of their ships, Dr. Kang added. We disrupted their network. The discovery transformed Earth's defense strategy. If the Dorn relied on perfect coordination, then humanity would embrace chaos. Military leaders worldwide began training for asymmetric warfare on a cosmic scale. Meanwhile, Dr. Kang's team worked to adapt the alien technology for human use. Progress that would normally take decades happened in months. The desperate need for survival drove innovation at unprecedented speeds. 4 months after the lunar mission, Dr. Kang presented his creation to the UEDC Council. The leaders of what remained of humanity gathered in the bunker to see a sleek aircraft unlike anything on Earth. Its hull incorporated elements of Dorn design, but adapted for human pilots. This is the Phoenix, Dr. Kang announced with quiet pride. The first human Dorn hybrid fighter. It carries weapon systems based on their technology, but modified to be operated by human minds. The council members moved closer, examining the vessel with wonder and hope. General Kim ran his hand along the smooth surface. Will it work against them? He asked the question on everyone's mind. Dr. Kang nodded. Humans are good at one thing, he said, his eyes reflecting the aircraft's lights, turning others' weapons against them. While Earth prepared its defenses, humanity took its first steps toward becoming a multi-planet species. Using recovered Dorn engines, the first human ships reached Mars in weeks rather than months. There, in the shadow of Olympus Mons, construction began on humanity's first off-world military base. Major Jun Lee, promoted to colonel after the lunar mission, supervised the Mars base construction. Standing on the red planet's surface, watching Earth teams assemble structures using a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology, he felt a strange mix of grief and pride. The base is taking shape nicely. Dr. Park's voice came through his comm. She coordinated the project from Earth but received daily updates. How's the cloaking system working? The Dorn won't see us, Jun confirmed. We've adapted their own stealth technology. Even their sensors will miss us. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The very race that had nearly wiped out humanity had inadvertently given them the tools to spread beyond Earth. Humanity was adapting, evolving, becoming something new, something the Dorn had never anticipated. As the first dome of the Mars base sealed successfully, June looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dorn were preparing another attack. They would return, expecting to find a broken species ready for harvesting. Instead, they would find humanity waiting for them, armed with their own technology, spread across 2 planets, and burning with a desire for justice that no alien species could fully comprehend. The Phoenix fighters were ready. The Mars base would be operational within weeks. Earth's defenses grew stronger daily. For the first time since the attack, Jun allowed himself to feel something close to hope. The Dorn had bombed Earth, thinking they were dealing with primitives. They would soon learn just how adaptable those primitives could be. Commander Yuna Choi felt the gentle vibration of the HSS Defiance's engines through the soles of her boots. She stood on the bridge of humanity's first true warship, a vessel built with technology stolen from the very enemy that had tried to destroy Earth. The ship hummed with power that humans had never controlled before. Contact approaching, Commander, Lieutenant Dahl reported from the sensor station. His voice was calm, but his knuckles were white on the controls. Multiple Dorn vessels just appeared beyond lunar orbit. Count is 43 ships, 3 times larger than their previous attack fleet. Yuna nodded, her face betraying no emotion. She had trained for this moment for months. They all had. Send the signal to Earth Command, she ordered. Then full communication blackout as planned. On the main view screen, the Dorn ships moved with perfect precision. Their formation resembled a massive arrowhead aimed directly at Earth. 8 months had passed since their first attack, enough time for them to gather a force they believed would finish what they had started. They expect to find us broken, Yuna said to her bridge crew. All eyes turned to her. They expect to find ruins and survivors ready to be harvested. They don't expect this. She gestured around the bridge of the ship that shouldn't exist, not according to Dorn understanding of human capabilities. The 12 ships of Earth's defense fleet moved into their starting positions. Unlike the Dorn's perfect formation, the human vessels appeared randomly placed. Some lurked behind lunar mountains. Others hid in the debris field created by the previous battle. The Defiance itself waited in low Earth orbit, its advanced cloaking system, adapted from Dorn technology, making it nearly invisible. Yuna opened a channel to the fleet. All ships maintain communication silence from this point forward, she ordered. Remember your training. They can sense coordinated attacks. Each ship acts alone. Trust your captains. Trust your training. With that final instruction, all communication between human vessels ceased. Unlike the Dorn, who fought as a single mind linked through their neural technology, The human fleet would fight as individual units following a loose plan but ready to improvise. The Dorn fleet crossed the lunar orbit line. Their massive flagship, easily identified as the same vessel that had destroyed Tokyo in the first attack, led the formation. Its hull gleamed like polished obsidian in the sunlight. "Weapons ready," Yuna ordered quietly. "Hold until they commit to Earth approach." Minutes passed in tense silence. On Earth, defense batteries waited. In orbit, stealth satellites tracked the enemy's movement. On Mars, Colonel Lee and his forces prepared to launch should Earth fall. When the Dorn crossed the invisible line that humanity had designated as the point of no return, Yuna gave a simple nod to her weapons officer. Now, the battle that would later be known as the Lunar Line began with what appeared to be a suicidal attack. 3 small human vessels suddenly accelerated toward the center of the Dorn formation, apparently intent on ramming the enemy ships. The Dorn responded as expected, their linked minds coordinating a textbook defensive maneuver. But the human ships weren't aiming for the Dorn vessels at all. They fired specially designed warheads into empty space just ahead of the Dorn fleet, then veered away. The warheads detonated, releasing an electromagnetic pulse modified based on Dr. Park's research to specifically target Dorn neural networks. Confusion rippled through the Dorn formation. Ships that had moved in perfect unison now drifted slightly out of alignment. The disruption lasted only seconds, but it was enough. From behind the moon, 6 more human ships attacked from an angle the Dorn hadn't protected. From Earth's surface, defense batteries fired weapons designed to bypass Dorn shields. From orbit, the Defiance decloaked directly above the Dorn flagship. "Target their command tower," Yuna ordered. "Fire when ready." The Defiance's main weapon, a modified version of the Dorn's own energy cannons, fired a concentrated beam at the enemy flagship. For a moment, the alien ship's shields held, glowing bright blue against the attack. Then, precisely as Dr. Park had predicted, the shields fluctuated at a specific frequency. "Second volley, adjusted to harmonic match," Yuna commanded. The second beam struck at exactly the right moment in the shield's energy cycle. Instead of being deflected, it passed through as if the powerful defenses weren't there, striking the command tower directly. Across the battlefield, human ships executed seemingly random attack patterns. Some retreated, only to loop back from unexpected vectors. Others deliberately took damage to create openings for their companions. To the Dorn, accustomed to fighting with perfect coordination, the human tactics appeared chaotic and irrational. "They're trying to re-establish their neural network," Lieutenant Dahl reported, watching the sensor readings. "Their signals are adapting to our jamming." Yuna smiled slightly, just as Dr. Park predicted. "Execute pattern Omega." The battle shifted. Human ships that had been attacking now began defensive maneuvers. Ships that had been defending suddenly attacked. The constant change in tactics prevented the Dorn from adapting. On the Dorn flagship, now damaged and struggling to maintain its position, Sub-Commander Reth watched with growing concern as the supposedly primitive humans demonstrated capabilities that should have been impossible. Their attacks made no sense according to any battle doctrine in the Confederacy database, yet they were systematically disabling the Dorn fleet. "Recalibrate the network," he ordered. "Focus all ships on the largest human vessel." The Dorn fleet tried to regroup, concentrating their firepower on the Defiance. Yuna's ship shuddered under the barrage. "Shields at 40%, reported the defensive systems officer. "We can't take much more of this." Yuna remained calm. "Hold position. Continue targeting their command systems." Just when it seemed the Defiance would be overwhelmed, 3 human ships executed what appeared to be a suicide run. They accelerated directly toward the Dorn flagship's engines, firing continuously. The Dorn ships shifted to intercept this new threat. It was exactly what Yuna had been waiting for. Now, all power to main weapons. Target their bridge. The Defiance's weapons struck the Dorn flagship at its most vulnerable point. The massive alien vessel went dark, its engines failing, its weapons silent. Around it, Other Dorn ships started to break formation as their neural network collapsed without the flagship's coordination. "Boarding teams ready," Yuna ordered. "We take that ship intact." 6 hours later, in what had once been the command center of the most powerful vessel in the Dorn fleet, Dr. Hannah Park stood face to face with the first Dorn to ever speak to a human rather than attempt to kill one. Sub-Commander Reth was secured to a chair, his 4 arms restrained. His skin had a bluish tint, and compound eyes reflected the room's lights in multiple directions. He looked at Dr. Park with what seemed like confusion. "Your kind was categorized as presentient," the alien told her, speaking through a translation device Dr. Park had developed. "Resource worlds are not contacted, merely harvested." Dr. Park studied the alien with clinical interest. "And now?" she asked. The alien's compound eyes shifted. A gesture that Dr. Park's research suggested indicated uncertainty. "Now you have been reclassified." Dr. Park leaned closer. "Tell me about your confederacy. Tell me about the other worlds you've harvested." Outside the captured flagship, Earth's small fleet regrouped. Despite heavy losses, humanity had achieved its first true victory against the alien invaders. The remains of the Dorn fleet had retreated beyond the solar system, transmitting urgent messages toward whatever distant world they called home. On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Yuna received the preliminary casualty reports. 7 of their 12 ships had survived. Thousands of crew members had been lost. But they had held the line. They had protected Earth. And they had captured the very ship that had once brought such destruction to their world. "Send word to Colonel Lee on Mars," she instructed her communications officer. "Tell him we've won the day, but this is just the beginning." As Yuna looked at the stars visible through the view screen, she knew the Dorn would return, possibly with an even larger force. But next time, humanity would be better prepared. They would have the knowledge gained from the captured ship and prisoners. They would have time to build more vessels, train more crews. Most importantly, they had hope, something that had been in short supply since that terrible day when the skies burned and the cities fell. "They bombed our world," Yuna said quietly to herself. "Now they'll learn what happens when humanity strikes back." The massive ship that had once brought death to Tokyo now bore a new name painted in bold white letters across its hull: HFY Vengeance. Inside its command center, where Dorn officers had once coldly ordered Earth's destruction, Commander Yuna Choi now sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by a human crew. "Navigation systems are online," Dr. Hannah Park reported from her station. The scientist had spent months learning to interpret the alien controls, her fingers now moving confidently across interfaces designed for beings with 4 arms and compound eyes. "The star charts are fascinating. They've mapped thousands of systems we never knew existed." Yuna nodded, studying the main view screen where Earth grew smaller as they moved toward the edge of the solar system. The blue planet still showed terrible scars from the Dorn attack, but cities were being rebuilt. Humanity was recovering. "Is everyone ready for the jump?" Yuna asked, looking around at her crew. 50 of Earth's best officers and scientists staffed the Vengeance, along with 200 support personnel. All had volunteered for this mission, despite knowing they might never return home. "Engineering reports all systems ready," Lieutenant Dahl confirmed. "Modified Dorn engines are functioning at 93% efficiency." Yuna took a deep breath. No human had ever traveled beyond the solar system before. They would be the first. "Execute jump sequence," she commanded. The stars on the view screen blurred. A strange humming filled the ship as the Dorn faster-than-light drive activated. For a moment, reality itself seemed to bend. Then suddenly, they were elsewhere, orbiting a red dwarf star 4 light-years from Earth. "Proxima Centauri," Dr. Park whispered, awe in her voice despite her scientific training. "We did it." Behind the Vengeance, 5 smaller hybrid vessels, ships built in the Mars shipyards using a combination of human ingenuity and stolen Dorn technology, completed their jumps. The small fleet moved into formation, their engines glowing softly against the darkness of space. "Activate stealth systems," Yuna ordered. begin passive scans for Dorn activity. They didn't have to search for long. On the fourth planet of the system, a rocky world with a thin, toxic atmosphere, the Dorn had built a massive supply depot. Orbital platforms moved cargo between ships. On the surface, vast mining operations scared the planet. "I'm detecting life signs," Dr. Park reported with surprise. "Not Dorn. Something else. Thousands of them, working in the mines." Yuna moved to look over her shoulder at the readings. "Slaves? Most likely," Dr. Park agreed grimly. "The Dorn told us Earth wasn't their first harvest world." The UEDC mission had been simple: destroy the supply depot to prevent another attack on Earth. But the discovery of enslaved aliens changed everything. Yuna called her officers together for a quick conference. "We need to adjust our plan. We can't just bomb the facility with those people down there." "They might not even be people," Lieutenant Dell pointed out. "They could be anything." "They're slaves," Yuna replied firmly. "That makes them people enough for me." 3 hours later, a small team led by Yuna herself took a shuttle to the surface, wearing adaptive environment suits designed based on Dorn technology. They landed near the main mining complex, using the stealth systems to avoid detection. The alien slaves were not what anyone expected. Standing about 1 meter tall, they resembled amphibians, with smooth blue-green skin that glistened with moisture. They moved slowly under the watchful eyes of armed Dorn overseers. "Those are Trell," Dr. Park whispered, checking her datapad. "According to the files we took from the Dorn ship, their homeworld was conquered 30 years ago." Yuna watched as a Trell worker collapsed from exhaustion. The Dorn guard kicked the fallen alien without mercy. "We're changing the mission," Yuna decided. "We're not just destroying this base, we're freeing these people." The attack began at what would have been midnight on Earth. The human fleet decloaked simultaneously, striking key defensive positions with weapons specifically designed to bypass Dorn shields. On the surface, Yuna's team disabled the slave control systems and began evacuating Trell to waiting shuttles. The Dorn, caught completely by surprise, struggled to mount an effective defense. They had never imagined humans could reach this far into space, let alone attack with such coordination. "Keep moving," Yuna shouted to the confused Trell as alarms blared throughout the facility. "We're here to help you." The small aliens hesitated, their large eyes blinking in confusion. One stepped forward, wearing decorative bands that Dr. Park's research suggested indicated leadership. "Why?" the Trell asked in a bubbling voice that the translation device struggled to interpret. "Why do you free us?" "Because that's what humans do," Yuna replied simply, helping a wounded Trell toward the shuttle. "We protect our own. And now, you're with us." Above the planet, the battle continued. The human ships fought with the same unpredictable tactics that had proven so effective during the Lunar Line engagement. The Dorn defenders, trained to fight in perfect formation, couldn't adapt to the seeming chaos of human battle strategies. "Target their command center," Yuna ordered from her shuttle as she returned to the Vengeance with the first group of freed Trell. "Then destroy their communication array. We don't want them calling for help." Within 6 hours, the battle was over. The Dorn supply depot lay in ruins. Its defenders had either fled or been captured. And nearly 4,000 Trell had been freed from slavery. On the Vengeance's medical deck, now crowded with injured Trell, the alien leader who had questioned Yuna earlier approached her again. "I am Kelb," the alien introduced itself. "I speak for what remains of the Trell collective. We have been slaves for a generation. We had forgotten what freedom felt like." Yuna nodded respectfully. "We came here to protect our world from another attack. We didn't know we would find you." "Yet you risk your mission to save us," Kelb observed. "No species in the Confederacy would do this. They all obey the hierarchy. The strong rule the weak. This is their way." "Not our way," Yuna replied. The journey back to Earth took longer than the outbound trip. The Vengeance and its escort ships were damaged from battle, and their holds were crowded with Trell refugees. But as they approached the solar system, Dr. Park made another discovery that changed everything. "I've been reviewing the data we captured," she told Yuna on the bridge. "The Confederacy has enslaved at least 6 other species besides the Trell. Their empire spans hundreds of systems." Yuna considered this information gravely. "Then destroying one supply depot won't be enough to protect Earth." "No," Dr. Park agreed. "They'll keep coming. Unless we take the fight to them." Yuna finished her thought. "Show them humans aren't easy prey." When they reached Earth orbit, news of their success and the rescued Trell spread quickly. The UEDC Council convened an emergency session to meet with Commander Choi and the Trell leader Kelb. "You've proven humans can fight the Dorn successfully," the UEDC chairman stated. "But this information about other enslaved species changes our understanding of the conflict." Kelb stepped forward, its moist skin glistening under the council chamber lights. "The Confederacy believes in natural order. Strong species rule. Weak species serve. For millennia, none have challenged this, until humans." "What makes us different?" asked a council member. Dr. Park displayed data from her research. While most species in the galaxy develop technology in predictable patterns over thousands of years, humans moved from basic flight to space travel in less than 2 centuries. "The Dorn can't comprehend our rate of adaptation. They call you the unpredictable ones in their communications," Kelb added. "They fear what they cannot predict." Over the following weeks, Earth's factories worked overtime to produce more ships based on the Vengeance design. The Mars shipyards expanded to accommodate larger vessels, and Trell engineers began sharing their own knowledge, helping humans improve upon the stolen Dorn technology. On the observation deck of the Vengeance, now docked at Earth's orbital station for repairs, Yuna stood with Dr. Park, looking down at the planet they had nearly lost. "The Council has approved a new mission," Yuna said quietly. "We're to locate and liberate other enslaved species. Build alliances." Dr. Park nodded. "The Confederacy has never faced a rebellion before. They don't know how to fight one. And we're very good at being unpredictable," Yuna added with a small smile. Below them, Earth continued to heal. Above them, stars beckoned. The Dorn had attacked Earth thinking they were dealing with a primitive species ready for harvesting. Instead, they had awakened something they couldn't understand. A species that adapted rather than submitted, that fought chaos with chaos, and that saw freeing slaves as more important than following mission parameters. The Confederacy was about to learn just how dangerous humans could be when they had a cause worth fighting for. The blue-green planet of Dorn Prime filled the main view screen of the HSS Resilience. 2 years ago, most humans had never left Earth's atmosphere. Now they had brought war to the heart of the Galactic Confederacy. Admiral Jun Lee stood at the command center of the largest warship humans had ever built. His journey from major to admiral had followed humanity's rapid rise among the stars. Where once he had crept across the lunar surface in a crude environmental suit, he now commanded a fleet of 200 vessels. "Their orbital defenses are activating," reported the sensor officer. "They've detected us." June nodded calmly. "They would have to eventually. Are all ships in position?" "Yes, Admiral. Human vessels are in formation. Trell waterships have moved to the southern hemisphere. Varric battle cruisers are holding position at the jump points." Beside June stood Dr. Hannah Park, the woman who had first decoded the Dorn language after the bombing of Earth. Her understanding of the enemy had made this moment possible. Next to her were representatives from 3 liberated species. Kelb of the Trell, whose aquatic people had been the first aliens freed by humans. Zima, a tall crystalline being from the silicon-based Varric. And Olu, a small 6-limbed Ferrani whose telepathic abilities had proven invaluable in understanding Dorn technology. "They never imagined we'd bring the fight to them," Dr. Park said, looking at the beautiful world of the species that had tried to exterminate her own. "Their defenses are designed to repel attacks from other Confederacy species, predictable enemies who fight by the same rules they do." "That's been their mistake from the beginning," Jun replied. They judge others by their own limitations. On the planet below, alarms rang through the gleaming towers of the Dorn capital. For thousands of years, no enemy had dared approach their homeworld. The Dorn had grown comfortable in their dominance, certain of their place at the top of the galactic hierarchy. Grand Commander Vec, supreme military leader of the Dorn Confederacy, stared in disbelief at the tactical displays showing the approaching fleet. Impossible, he hissed through his breathing apparatus. The humans were a pre-sentient species. They had barely achieved spaceflight when we cataloged them. Yet they stand at our door, observed Sub-Commander Reth, who had been returned in a prisoner exchange 6 months earlier. His experience as a captive had changed him. They do not think as we do. They do not follow the patterns. Vec turned his compound eyes toward Reth. You sound as if you admire these creatures. I respect them, Reth replied carefully, as one should respect any dangerous species. In orbit, the Allied fleet began its carefully choreographed attack. Unlike the perfect formations of Confederacy warfare, the human-led forces struck from multiple angles in what appeared to be random patterns. Some ships deliberately took damage to create openings for others. Fighter squadrons veered off on seemingly suicidal runs, only to circle back at crucial moments. On the Resilience's bridge, Jun watched as the opening phase unfolded according to plan. Prepare Dr. Kang's device, he ordered. Target their central command network. For 2 years, Dr. Su Kang had worked to perfect his greatest creation, a system that could not only jam Dorn telepathic networks, but turn them against their users. The device, housed in the Resilience's central core, powered up with a low hum that resonated through the ship. Device ready, Admiral, reported the science officer. The fleet is in position, added the tactical officer. All ships report ready. June looked to Dr. Park, whom nodded once. Activate, he commanded. The device sent out waves of energy precisely calibrated to the frequency of Dorn neural implants. Across their homeworld, and throughout their defense fleet, the Dorn suddenly found their perfect coordination shattered. The shared consciousness that had made them such effective conquerors became their greatest weakness. On the surface, Dorn soldiers clutched their heads in pain. In orbit, their ships drifted out of formation. The rigid command structure that had ruled 1,000 worlds for millennia collapsed in minutes. Their orbital defenses are down, reported the tactical officer. Their fleet is in disarray. Launch landing craft, June ordered. Security teams to designated targets. Remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to end this war. As the battle progressed, it became clear that the Dorn had no effective defense against an enemy who fought as humans did. Their military doctrine, unchanged for thousands of years, had no contingency for an opponent who embraced chaos rather than order. Within 6 hours, human and allied forces had secured the Dorn capital. Key military installations surrendered with minimal resistance. The ruling council requested terms. Dr. Park led the delegation that entered the ancient council chamber, a vast hall where the fate of countless species had been decided over millennia. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber, conscious of making history. Behind her came representatives from each liberated species. Admiral Lee followed, his military uniform a stark contrast to the ornate robes of the council members. The chamber fell silent as Dr. Park took her place at the speaker's position. Above her, tiers of seats rose in a perfect circle, filled with representatives of the 37 species that comprised the Confederacy leadership. You bombed Earth believing we were animals to be harvested, she said, her voice carrying through the vast space. You were wrong. Humanity has been fighting against extinction since we first walked upright. It's made us specialists in survival. She gestured to the allies standing with her. You enslaved these people because you believed in a natural order, that strong species rule and weak ones serve. But strength isn't just about technology or age. It's about adaptation, about cooperation, about seeing value in differences rather than using them to justify domination. The head counselor, an ancient Dorn with skin that had faded to pale blue with age, leaned forward. What do you want, human? reparations, territory, revenge, justice, Dr. Park replied simply. And a new order, one where species help each other grow instead of fighting for dominance. The peace negotiations lasted 3 weeks. The treaty that emerged fundamentally restructured the Galactic Confederacy. The practice of categorizing worlds as harvestable was abolished. All enslaved species were granted independence, and humanity, along with its allies, received full membership in the reformed Confederacy Council. When Dr. Park returned to Earth, she found a world transformed. Cities once reduced to ash now sprouted new buildings. The scars remained, but they were healing. In the streets of rebuilt Seoul, children played beneath monuments to those lost in the attack. In orbit, ships arrived and departed for distant stars, carrying traders, diplomats, and explorers. In the new United Earth Government building, Admiral Lee stood with Dr. Park, looking at a holographic display of known space, vastly larger than humans had imagined before the war. "We've been invited to establish embassies on 12 worlds," he told her. "3 species have requested our help developing defense systems." "And the Dorn?" she asked, adjusting. Slowly, their younger generation seems more open to change. Dr. Park nodded, studying the vast expanse of stars now open to humanity. "They thought they were ending our story when they bombed Earth. Instead, they were just the beginning of a new chapter." Outside the window, the first graduating class of the new Earth Space Academy marched in formation. Young people from around the world, training to serve on ships that would carry human curiosity, courage, and compassion to the stars. The Dorn had attacked Earth expecting to find primitive creatures easy to conquer. They had found instead the most dangerous force in the galaxy, a species that turned setbacks into opportunities,